I want them to love Spanish. They had 3 or 4 years of Spanish before her classes, and they were just very jaded from the type of instruction and the way that they were learning. And Miss Candelario made it so innovative and so creative and so exciting, and yet she took the language and connected it to what's going on in contemporary society. And she gave activities where they were involving themselves into the community and they were involving themselves into contemporary news, but while using Spanish. Everything was current and contemporary. And so she made it exciting and innovative and creative. And I wanted them to have that love of language. I teach English, so I want people to have a love of English. Well, I also want them just to have a love of language. And that's what I wanted for my children. And based on what I saw that happens in her classes, I knew my children would get that from her. They're excited to go to her class. They're excited to do her work. I see them working on her projects all the time. They're excited. They're using the language. I have a Guatemalan cousin, and the kids talk to him all the time, and I actually hear them conversing in Spanish, where before they were, not doing it. But they just have really just encompassed the language and are enjoying it more. We are blessed to have her. We are fortunate to have her. I was really worried that when her Teach for America contract here ended, that she would leave and go back to New York or whatever. I'm thrilled to find out that she's at least committed to another year. I'm really hoping that she never leaves here unless she's figured out a way to clone herself to have another replacement here, because she is truly, truly the type of teacher and the type of person that this high school needs.
Well, as you know, she comes from a different part of the country. She comes from New York City, which is what we're similarly familiar. We're both in the Spanish field. So he listened to her stories, and he's listened to what she's been through and what she's grown up through. And he uses it as a positive reflect in what he's growing through, and as he's growing up, and uses what she teaches him, what he's doing now. She's one of the most positive role people in the school. She helps these kids out, and she understands them. She's not much older than them, which is a great thing, because she does understand them, and she can help them get through whatever they're getting through. Whatever kind of problems they have, they can always come and talk to her, and she'll do her best to do what she can to help the child out as growing up as a young individual.
Ella la ha ayudado en que Yubicela estuvo en un programa que no tenía que estar, y ella la ayudó, y ella no para poderse graduar ella no iba a tener diploma, ella nada más le iban a dar un certificado, y pues ella estaba de que ya si no le iban a dar su diploma. Ella decía que ya no iba a la escuela, y yo hablé con la señorita Candelario, y ella fue la que pudo sacar adelante a ella. Ella como maestra, sabe cómo ella estaba, su alumna, y ella la sacó adelante con ese programa, y le doy muchas gracias a ella por ella. Pues va a salir ella más adelante con su diploma. Y le doy mil gracias a ella de que ella nos ha ayudado mucho.
I think that Ms. Candelario has been, for lack of a better word, a breath of fresh air in our school community. There's an excitement and a heart in everything she does that is contagious. And I'm reminded of some professional development that we were doing at the end of the year last year, and one of the things that she offered was to teach some dance steps to our staff members as part of our ever growing desire to try to learn more and more about other cultures. And she had some of the most unlikely teachers, I think, volunteer to come to that. And they had a wonderful time, and she handled it in such a way that she just kind of conveys this excitement about learning, whether we're talking about our own growth as professionals or our students' growth. Well, I've had the opportunity to work with the World Language Professional Learning Community this year. And within that group, she has been very influential in the development of their learning activities for students. One of the things that we're aiming for is having student-engaged classrooms. And every moment of her classroom involves active involvement on the part of students. And so she has, even though she might not necessarily be the most senior person in the group of teachers, she has been the one to kind of share ideas for engaging learning experiences for world language classrooms. And that's been eye-opening for some teachers, I think. But she does it in a way that is very non-threatening, and the teachers are receptive and want to try what she suggests. And so it's influenced, frankly, not only what's happening in the classrooms, but also the development of our curriculum.
I think Ms. Candelario has had a very strong impact on the community here at Seaford. I see kids in her class do things that they didn't know that they could do. Kids that they could accomplish in their Spanish classes that they never would have been able to handle on their own or never would have really tried. And I think that alone is something that Ms. Candelario has brought to this table that has really made a big difference in the way our school is seen and viewed and the way they think of themselves. And she's really put that out there by showing these kids that, hey, just because it's a foreign language, just because it's a hard subject, doesn't mean that it's any less important. And she's really shown them that. So I think she's had a big impact on our climate overall. Oh my goodness, I don't know where I would be without Ms. Candelario. I constantly am over having her help me with my lessons and lesson planning, and most importantly, Ms. Candelario makes things fun. She makes learning fun, and that's something that I think a lot of teachers need to learn how to still do, because given working in a public school with all of the red tape that comes with it and the paperwork and everything else, it's very hard and very easy to get tripped up in a lot of the things that you have to accomplish as a public school teacher. And Ms. Candelario proves that it's still possible to make learning fun even within the confines of all of this. And I couldn't be more grateful for her, for all of her help. There was a point, and she doesn't actually know this, but there was a point at the beginning of the year, and I couldn't lesson plan if I didn't have her help. There was a roadblock, and I would be 8 o'clock at night, and I would call her, and I would be like, hey, can you walk me through this, please? Because I couldn't handle it. So that's something that I will forever be grateful for, because if it wasn't for Ms. Candelario, I don't know if I would have been able to be as successful as I have been so soon here.
I feel like Ms. Candelario has always been a key person, and it's as simple as her body language, the way she presents herself, the fact that I have, in my days of knowing her, I've seen her not have a smile on her face one day, and that was because she was physically ill, and she came and apologized to me for being physically ill and that she wasn't able to give what she needed to her students. And so when you have someone with that kind of attitude, kids, especially high school kids, pick up very quickly on who wants them in their room, who feels that they have something worthy to bring to a classroom, and then who wants to interact with them. I would go so far as telling you that Ms. Candelario does not have classroom management problems. She does not have problems with kids getting to her class, because the kids know that she wants them in her classroom. And for those reasons, and then the classroom planning, the wonderful things that she does in the room that are sometimes out of the box and that are fun and that take more energy but the kids know that they have a purpose. She's just not in there just doing stuff. The stuff has a purpose, but a lot of times the stuff, mainly, and I'll backtrack, mainly what I see with her is she comes across as a person with a lot of energy. And energy begets energy. So if she has energy, then they have energy, and there's just a lot of movement forward in the class. It's just not compliance. Oh, okay, we have this standard, I've got to teach you the standard, let me teach you the standard, blah, 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 and check it off. There's none of that going on in her room. And for that, I'm grateful that she's here.
I think the long-term impact Ms. Candelario will have on her students is going to be the fact that she's genuine. And what I mean about being genuine is that she is ingenuitive, but she has a way to empathize with our student population because of her personal experiences through her upbringing. So I think she has a natural knack to make that parallelism between learning and applying it to real life situations. There's been times where I've seen her interact with our students in non-instructional ways, but instructional ways. So for instance, I recall a situation last year where she was really instructing on life skills. And so that's why I think her impact, because let's be honest, we're all adults, right? And we've all been to college. But if you really think back to some basic elements, a lot of it comes from what you learn socially. And I think that when I look at Ms. Candelario, that is an extreme strength of hers, and especially being a part of our team at the Seaford Senior High School, to be able to empathize with our kids, hold them accountable, have the rigor in our courses, but also being able to have that transference to empathize with their current situations. But don't let that be a barrier, right? Here's how we overcome it.
So often when you think of aspiring athletes and aspiring coaches, you hear coaches often say, oh, that athlete is a student of the game, meaning that they love the game, they learn every piece of the game, and they eat it up, and they excel at high levels. I say that because Patty is a student of the game of education, of teaching. She's very deliberate and she's very strategic in planning for instruction. She knows, if she doesn't know what she needs to know, she's going to find out a way to do that. So she's done an amazing job partnering relationships and with her peers within her department and also within the school. So she can frequently be seen collaborating with a social studies teacher and what impact can that social studies teacher have on her in Spanish 1 or in IB Spanish. So she is a student of the game, and she can be that student as well because she's very strategic and intentional as well to develop deep, and I mean deep relationships with students. She understands their struggles, she understands what they want, and then in turn she has high expectations for them. So she knows what they want, and she uses the content of Spanish to be able to help them get what they want. So she'll see students that are struggling because maybe they aren't fitting in, or in their environment maybe they're not treated fairly because they're a minority, or they're not treated fairly because of their gender or because of their sexual orientation. She's an advocate for them to be able to fight for their rights and what's right for them, and get what they want and get what they need. And she's relentless in helping students, whether it's before school, after school, developing those partnerships. And on another note, she goes out of her way to be that student of the game beyond just teaching. She's performs different activities with the school leadership team. She also works with the school and climate team. So she knows that being a student of the game of teaching moves beyond just teaching. It's the total environment. It's students that walk through Patty's room are going to remember her because of her mentorship and her passion and the work that she does. And the neat thing about it is that she's packaging it with her content area as well. But her ability to form those relationships and mentor students goes above and beyond, and those are the things that are going to have a lasting impact on her students, that go way above and beyond knowing Spanish. And she's an art at that craft.
The region is something that we call a youth program desert, so there's not a lot for teens to do here. So the work that I've done with Patty is we've introduced a program into Western Sussex called Youth in Government. I think what she has done for those students is give them something to motivate them, something where they feel like they matter, like they're part of a group, that they belong, and I think that that is priceless. So that's what she's done for the school community. For the community at large, the greater Seaford community, she has been the driving force behind, first of all, a collaboration between 4 different large organizations here in Western Sussex. We have the YMCA bringing down the program. The Western Sussex Boys and Girls Club is involved. Of course, our coalition and the Seaford School District. So that alone is huge, to be able to bring those organizations together for the greater good of the kids. But also, she is doing what we as educators or we as community members should strive to do, which is to create an opportunity for kids to develop holistically. So not only is she educating them in the classroom and keeping them accountable at school, but she's teaching them how to become good community leaders, people who are invested in Seaford, people who are invested in their community for the future. You know, the kids get to create bills around areas that they feel are important to them. A lot of them, you know, in youth and government have to do with their school atmosphere or their community atmosphere, their neighborhoods, their sisters, their brothers, their parents. So allowing them to speak up about that and be able to say, you know what, one day, you know, in the future, I can actually make this a reality.